like to talk to you a little more about fishing. This is one style that we have. This is called a new canoe kayak. You can go online to Riverside Fly Shop in Summerton, Alabama. They're located on Highway 69. That's one dealer that sells this type of kayak. What I like about it, this was a Frontier. It's 12 foot in length. You can put a trolling motor on the back. You got plenty of room, leg room. You got room for a battery, your trolling motor, and a cooler. You got other little accessories that you can add on here if you want to tie a fish basket on to keep your fish that you catch alive and so forth, just hang it over the side. This one here has a 360-degree swivel seat. I bought this to go on here because a lot of times I like turning around. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put it in my lake, and then I'm going to demonstrate just a few little simple techniques, the do's and don'ts. I'd like to show you different things that I do when I'm fishing out of the kayak. Okay, another thing I'd like to talk to you about is a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. Okay, this one is inflatable. It has a CO2 cartridge in it. The ones I like is automatic and manual. What I mean by automatic, if something was to happen and you fall out of the kayak into the water, as soon as the water hits this device, it's got a sensor in here that automatically inflates the life jacket. That will keep your head above the water and keep you from drowning. A lot of people think they're too good, that they can swim, that they're a good swimmer. Let me tell you something. You probably are. But listen, this here will save your life. If you were to have a stroke, a heart attack, or you run into something, an object in the water that tips you over and you become unconscious, this life vest right here will save your life. Another one I'd like to show you, this one's camouflage, but this is a kayak vest. You put it on and you snap it to you and zip it up. I advise you, every time that you're on the water, please wear one of these or one of those. It will save your life, keep you from drowning, because we want you to be safe out there and enjoy yourself while you're on the water. Okay, friends and neighbors, also to be able to paddle your kayak, you either have a long paddle with two paddles on each end, or you can paddle a kayak with a single paddle. It's whichever you prefer. When I'm fishing and you're in the kayak, like I said, I can pull my string and I can lob my cork or quill over there and put it in the water, let it sit for a little bit, and just kind of twitch it. And that makes that bug or your worm, your minnow, jig, whatever, make it flip, and you're able to flop it. The reason why I flop it, it attracts attention. Like in rivers or streams, when you flop that cork and it hits the water, if most of you know what a musky dime looks like, catfish love musky dimes. And when you make that plopping sound, it makes catfish think that there's a musky dime or a worm has fallen off a limb into the water. And a lot of times they like to swim over there to investigate. Now my fish in my pond, they're very nervous right now. My son's cows come in here and stir the water up, and it makes the fish a little nervous. But this is some of the techniques that I've learned over the years when I'm fishing. Be careful, watch out for limbs, overhangs, things of that nature, so when you're fishing that you don't get hung up or get your limb hook caught or line caught in over a limb there. Okay, now another technique I'd like to show you that you can do, we'll lay this down right here, is I like to worm fish here in my lake. Sometimes I use a weight, sometimes I don't. A lot of people like open face reels. I like a closed face. I do fish with both, but the way I fish my worms here in the lake, I take two worms, and this here happens to be a watermelon red put out by Zoom. It's called a swamp crawler. And what I do, I come to the worm, I go middle ways, I run my hook in through the worm like that, about middle ways and I'll bring it out. I'll take the next worm and I'll come here and I'll hook him a similar way. The reason for this, when I fish for bass in my lake, when I move the end of my rod, it makes the worms jump and it helps attract attention. If you can see it, they'll move. And these worms have an oily smell on them that most bass like. So I'm just going to make a few short casts here and show you what I do. I let it go out there. I let the waves get out about 3 foot away from the worm, and I'll just twitch it. I'll let the worms fall, and I'll twitch it. Bring it in a little bit and twitch it. Bring it in a little bit and twitch it. This is a technique that I've been very successful as far as catching bass in my lake. This is a double paddle that I was talking about. Most kayaks have these. This is called an Ascend. It's put out by the Ascend company that makes Ascend kayaks. I like this paddle because it's got a groove in it right here. If you were to get your line caught on a limb, you can put your line in here, follow the line down to your hook, and when you get right there to it, you just bump it and you'll free it up. And like I said, this is called an Ascend, A-S-C-E-N-D, Ascend paddle. Academy sells this type paddle, and also Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's. You can check with them. It's very easy to maneuver your kayak. Now you want to say, how am I going to back up? Turn your paddle this way and then back up. Very easy to do. Now, a lot of people just like to fish with one paddle, but I fish with both. Okay, friends and neighbors, another little attachment successful thing that I found is like a little clamp. This is a woodworking clamp that you can fasten to your sawhorses or plywood or something of that nature. But I found out it's stiff enough if you were to run your string through here and attach it to your boat and tie it off. If you're fishing and you want to get in the shade and not get out of your kayak, you can have long enough string and reach up and grab a limb, and while the string is attached here to your boat and the clamp holds the limb, you'll be stable. Most time I have 2 of these in my kayak. I like to tie the front off, the bow, or back here where I'm at towards the trestle on the back end. Okay, that's just a simple reminder. Another thing that I recommend when you're out fishing, carry you some wasp spray. Okay, a lot of times you're gonna run up on a wasp nest, or you get your line or your hook caught on a limb and there's a big wasp nest there. Trust me, if there's wasps on there and it's not real cold, those rascals, they want to sting you. So I carry a wasp spray where I can spray them and try to get to them before they get to me. Another thing I'd recommend is deep woods off. A lot of times when you're out in nature, there's a lot of red bugs, chiggers, ticks. Ticks are real bad this year in the state of Alabama. So I recommend that you use an insect repellent. This is put out by Repel. It's Sportsman's Max. It's got 40% DEET in it. I've been real successful using this as far as keeping the ticks off of me, because ticks are really, really bad. If you like ticks and you want them to get on you, don't use this. But just for a word of advice, please use this or something of this nature that's a high percentage of DEET, insect repellent, and you will have hopefully have a good time and a successful way of fishing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors, this is a little technique that I've learned, my father taught me. When you're fishing out of a john boat, canoe, or kayak, find you a forked stick, something of this nature, about 5-6 foot long. The reason why you use a forked stick, if you get caught on a limb or a log while you're fishing, you put your line through here, you run it down the line to where your hook is. Once you feel it, you punch it one time. Most time it frees your hook up where you're able to retrieve it. Now, this pole right here, I use this a lot in my bass boat because it goes a lot further. This pole will extend out about 12 to 15 foot in length. It's telescopic, and it comes out. When you get hung up, you can run your line in this curl part right here. Slide it down your line where you're holding your pole. You feel your hook, tap it, and it frees it up. And this is another good advice. Now, I bought this one at Bass Pro Shop, and believe you me, it has paid for itself time and time again. It ends the frustration of having to break and retie and so forth. So when you can, if you can't find one of these or afford one of these, the old standby reliable. A good forked stick will sure be good for you. Okay friends, one technique that I like to show you with a single paddle, you can use this technique also in a john boat. If you're in a john boat, this is what we call the J stroke, is when you're pulling or trying to maneuver a paddle. What you want to do, you want to pull forward, and then you want to push out away from your boat. Pull forward, hook it around, and push out. That way you'll be able to guide your boat and maneuver your boat. That's called a J stroke. Okay, to back up, I would recommend that you move your paddle this way. You can turn your kayak around, switch hands again, and then you're able to paddle on down the stream or in a lake or pond. Very simple. All right, another technique I'd like to show you with a single paddle is that when you're maneuvering around and you want to get closer to the bank, okay, let's say for instance that you're out in the lake and you want to get closer. Now I recommend you use this stroke right here. It goes back and forth, and it will bring you over to the bank to where you're able to get out of your kayak in a shallow place. I would not recommend to do this in deep water. If you can find a flat place or a shoal or somebody that you could throw your rope to at the bow of the boat, I always like tying a rope on the end of my boat on the bow. That way if somebody's there, I can cast the rope to them. They can catch it, help pull you up on the bank, and help you get safer out of the water. I hope these few little techniques will be helpful to you, whichever brand of kayak you decide to buy. Like I said, I own two. I own a Hobie with a Mirage system, and then I've got this new canoe that I got from the fly shop up there in Summerton, Alabama. And like I said, you can contact them or Google them or go up on your iPhone, whatever, and see if you could find their number. If I had the number with me, maybe next session I can give you that number and you can call and talk to the man that owns the company that sells these boats. I have really enjoyed them. I've caught a lot of fish out of my Hobie and this kayak, and further reference, I hope y'all will too. But whichever brand name you decide to choose, this is a top load. Some kayaks you sit way down deep. Different seats. This seat here that I've got, like I said, swivels 360 degrees. I like it because I can swing around. I can put a trolling motor on the transom of this type of kayak and put a battery back here and tie it down, and then you can maneuver your way around. I hope y'all enjoy this segment, and I hope I was able to teach you something and maybe you can learn by it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you see, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.